Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best show of the best shows, where we talk about everything from comic books to even social commentary. This is episode number
3
of For Canon's Sake. So whether you're a normie, a wannabe expert, or a tryhard, get in there. And now, for your host, Mr. Eric July.
Thank you once again. We are back with episode number 3 of For Canon's Sake. We got a couple of good things that we're going to be discussing today. Made a couple of changes on my microphone for this episode, so it's going to be a little funky sounding. You may hear things in the background, but just sort of never mind that. But I want to give a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/EricDJuly. You can, of course, support the show over there. Visit ericdjuly.com for more information, forcanonsake.com for more information, whatever floats your boat. But I do want to give you guys a big shout out for really incentivizing me to continue with this podcast. But let me know I need to get one out. And now you're for sure solidifying the idea. And I appreciate that. Genuinely, I appreciate that, because I understand that I have 50 million things going on. So I know for some people they're like, oh, that's easy, right? You can just kind of do whatever you want and the response is going to be the response. And yeah, that's true. But in a sense, I mean, people react. People are human beings. So depending on where they knew me from, certain things might throw them off. But though I've thrown people off before, I would say if I have to lump my entire fan base or support base, more so, together, they've been supportive of me no matter what it is that I've done, be it music, be it the comic book videos, the commentary, doesn't really matter. Even if that's not along those lines, they've been very, very supportive of me. And I thoroughly appreciate that, because you keep it going. You also pay the bills, incentivize me to continue to make the material that you support and enjoy. Can't say how much I appreciate that. I can, but I can't really. Today we are going to be discussing, however, if you've watched the recent Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, you see that there were some new things introduced. So we'll get into that. And then we will talk about the recent X-Men, issue number 17 on the current run by Rosenberg. We'll get into that as well. Got some goodies for you. If you seen my videos, I know some of you watch my videos, so if you see my videos, I've talked about both of these topics already. But with the podcast, the long form, we get to really, really, really dive into it. I got some pushback on the X-Men stuff, so that'll be fun. But first, let's talk about Spider-Man. So what I'm referring to is there's this little conversation that went on. And again, you might be hearing stuff in the background. People have been mowing grass all damn morning for whatever reason. And no matter how much I soundproof this portion of my room, it doesn't matter. But it is what it is. I don't really care. You guys can hear me. That's what matters. Anyway, now with that being said, in the recent trailer, you can see that Nick Fury confirmed that there are multiple universes due to the snap. Snap happened, ripped a hole in the dimension, and there are multiple universes. Multiverses. So, what does this mean, right? I have to say that Mysterio, because he's a villain, he's classically a villain, and he's being portrayed early on, at least in the film, as this good guy. So he's also this illusionist. So we have to take that trailer at face value, because it very well could be a bunch of horse crap, because it is Mysterio after all. So maybe there's not multiple universes, but maybe there is. So for the sake of today's show, let's make sure that we act as if that's the case. We are going to confirm that. Let's pretend like it is confirmed that multiverses do exist. What exactly does this mean? Personally, I take this a couple of different ways, but to sum it up, I'm indifferent. Meaning I can go either way, really. I don't really care, but I can go either way. I care enough to the fact that I can go either way depending on what day you ask me and depending on what else gets confirmed. Only time will really tell. So as of right now, I guess I'm indifferent on it. And that's because I can see the positives come out of it and I can see the negatives. There's a lot of good things that can come from it. And I think a lot of this goes, and I think people are sleeping on this. People are sleeping on what could possibly happen with the Disney Plus streaming service and the role that this plays in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about it. I mean, we've gotten Marvel Cinematic Universe shows, Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is on this, I can't remember what season it's on, but it's new season's finna start here in a little bit. So taking that into consideration, there's a lot that can pop off with that streaming service. Because now they have their own element, Disney, because they have Marvel as well. They don't have to rely upon the Netflix of the world, other TV shows or what have you, or TV or channels, networks. They can now just kind of do their own thing. And we've already confirmed that there are going to be shows in Falcon and Winter Soldier, as well as Vision and Wanda, Scarlet Witch. That's a pretty big deal. Haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about it, but that is a pretty big deal because what it means is that they've had to rely on pretty much just the movies. Again, they've had those shows that I've mentioned. They haven't really developed the plot of the main, like the movies, right? And I guess you really can't expect them to do that, to be fair. But in the same respects, let's get to the real. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. haven't really moved. They've gone on their own little thing, and it hasn't really revealed anything. They could actually take that step a step further with Disney Plus. We can see new characters come. We can see new characters or old characters go. We can see characters developed faster, introduced, without having to rely upon movie time. Because movie time, you have a certain amount of time. If you have a show, spanning over the course of multiple episodes, let's say you have hour-long episodes. I mean, that's really only, you get three episodes. That's a movie right there. That's not even a quarter of the season. Well, depending on how long your season is. So you can imagine how much they can expand upon within Disney Plus. Now, I know that has nothing to do with the multiverses per se, as far as what we learned from Spider-Man, the trailer, because that's a movie, right? But if you combine both Disney Plus as well as a confirmed multiverse setting, we're cooking with grease, man. New characters can be introduced, and also they can right their wrongs. Now, the obvious that I know people are talking about is this is going to be the way that they introduce X-Men, Fantastic Four, Fox characters as such. That seems obvious. Maybe they take that element. Maybe they take that route. Wouldn't it be something crazy if Chris Evans went back to being the Human Torch? Wouldn't it be wild? And they play some joke like, hey, man, you look like somebody. And it's obviously Cap. Like, I don't know. That's just me. I would write that in if I was going to bring them in. Maybe. No, I wouldn't. But nonetheless, man, you get where I'm coming from, right? Multiverses, and I'll give my thoughts on that in a bit, but if they play their cards right, they are going to be able to right a lot of the wrongs that they have within the universe as far as legacy and respect for original characters. Namely, maybe Marvel, namely Monica Rambeau, maybe even Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was only half-assed introduced. The end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but maybe we have, there's the classic arc in which Adam Warlock is fighting a version of himself. Maybe the other universe has another version of, maybe let's say that the one that Aisha created in the main universe setting is the bad one. And the other universe, a new universe, a different universe, has a more developed hero in Adam Warlock that exists as we know him in the comics. Now, I still will be pissed because I don't like the fact that he wasn't introduced in the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet arc. I think that was the perfect time. But I'm saying, given a situation, maybe this is a way that they right their wrong. Obviously, with Marvel, same thing. They crapped on his legacy, gender change. Golly. Every time I talk about it, I get disgusted because it's I can't believe they did that. Somebody signed off on that and thought that was a good idea. But they gender changed Marvel, nerfed Marvel, and maybe this is a way that they somehow can tell a story in which we know about, or at least a legacy. The legacy gets acknowledged of Marvel. So again, maybe they tell a story. They tell a story. He can even be dead already. Dead already from cancer. Maybe the story is, maybe this is the death of Captain Marvel, which I know they wouldn't do, but I'm just saying. Maybe they already tell a story and he's already dead. Fine. But at least he's acknowledged if that's the case. Acknowledged as what we know him as in the comics. This is a classic arc. Big deal. Died of cancer. One of the first characters like that, for that to happen in the comics. And I believe it was the first graphic novel by way of Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. So why not do that? But Monica Rambeau, maybe there's a Monica Rambeau that never came into contact with a Carol Danvers. Or maybe Carol Danvers doesn't even get powers in the other universe. Wouldn't that be? Well, no, I wouldn't say that'd be preferable. Maybe she's Miss Marvel or something like that, at the very least. But she never comes in contact with Monica Rambeau, and Monica Rambeau doesn't look up to her. Monica Rambeau is original, kind of by way of accident, of course, but becomes a hero in that aspect, fighting in an oil rig with her, grandfather or father's friend? I believe it was grandfather's friend, old friend. Either way, something like that makes a little more sense. And at least they can right that wrong. So there's positive elements if you consider that, as well as combining it with the Disney Plus streaming service. You can get a lot of different things. Things can happen faster. People are, it's almost like a comic book universe where people are having to pay attention to multiple things. Pay attention to the movies, pay attention to your shows. Just drop little nuggets here and there. That way you're not so top heavy on movies. Make a lot of money. Get a lot of support. Now, remember, normies are normies, right? They already scream it's a different universe. But normies are normies. And I can't say enough how, I don't use normies as a slur, by the way. I use normies to literally describe people that only surface level know of some of these comic book characters. Maybe they've watched some cartoons or something. Normie isn't an insult. Normie is not an insult. It's only an insult if you're one of those obnoxious normies who knows, well, he's an idiot, right? That normie that doesn't know anything about anything, has no problem infiltrating subcultures and ruining characters, advocating for the ruining of characters, also just doesn't just know anything, right? Everything that they really learn about the characters is something they Google real fast. They don't own comic books. They don't have any long, short boxes, anything like that. This is not their medium. There's nothing wrong with being a normie. I would say the vast majority of my fan base is full of normies. The vast majority of my support base is full of normies. The vast majority of it is normies. That's what it is. So it's not an insult. But I recognize, just you got to use your logic here. Normies, for the most part, are just not being, if it's not a classic character, if it's not a Thor or Iron Man or Spider-Man and characters that have existed, showed up in cartoons throughout the years, these other characters they've never heard of. Even the characters I just named, they don't know of them outside of like maybe some cartoon stuff. They don't know of like the arcs, the stories, the origins of anything. They don't really know about some of that stuff. So for the most part, some of these characters they're just not being introduced to them. So this is why they don't really react. I think comic book fans get frustrated because they don't react like they were. Like, damn, Marvel got gender changed. What the hell is that? And they're looking around at their normie friends to be mad with them, but they're not. You got to remember they're a normie. Comic book fans, we're part of a niche community, man. I would like that to change. I don't think it has to be like that, but we're part of a really, really niche community, and there's usually no in between. There's no mid tier for the most part. There are some. I know that there are individuals that exist, but there's really not a mid tier of people that read comics but don't read a lot of them, right? It's usually like you either balls in or you balls out, right? So when stuff like that happens, you got to realize that normies don't care about any of this. Or more so, if you have no connection, if you don't know any better, this is the first time being introduced to Marvel. That's the first time they heard that name. So her being a female, they just thinking that that's always been the case. And they maybe enjoy a movie like Captain Marvel. And then they get on YouTube and they see big-headed guys like myself talking all of this nonsense. To them, it's nonsense. Being mad. Stuff like that. Saying that it's criminal, what they did. When you get stuff like that popping down or popping off, well, there you go. That really lets you in on what's taking place. It's the first time they're being introduced to these characters. They don't know any better, homies. They don't know any better. They don't know any better. I'm trying to tell you, they don't know better. So you gotta, take that into consideration. But in the same respects, and this is when I take aim to the writers and take aim at Marvel Studios. With that being said, why not at the very least respect the legacy of some of these characters? That doesn't mean that you have to tell the same exact story that's in the comics. But the reason why I bring up this point, and this point is, well, if you told the exact same story that was told in the comics, he wouldn't care. This is the first time that they're being introduced to these characters. And I don't understand why when you look at other novels and stuff like that, when people expect accuracy from those, why does that have to get abandoned when we talk about comic book characters? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So really, you have to go out of your way. You have to go out of your way to crap on the legacy of some of these classic characters. So this is why I can't give them a pass. When they crap on the legacy, you can still respect legacy. You can respect source material without telling the same exact story. But this is the problem with the current comic book communities, or more so comic book movie communities. When you get these writers, these film writers and stuff like that, they would rather use this as their canvas. And I get it from an artist standpoint. I'm an artist. But they use this as their canvas. And unfortunately, they rather the canvas completely overshadow the legacy. So they've made it about them, their legacy, as opposed to the legacy of characters that are already established. Me personally, if you can't respect canon, I don't even know why, or legacy more so, I don't even know why you would be brought on. And maybe that's my aim should be at the guys like Kevin Feige's of the world. because he maybe green light some of this. Maybe he does. I don't know. I'm just saying. You have to go out of your way to do this. Nonetheless, the positive thing that we can take from this is that they maybe can correct the wrongs. They can utilize this as well, this concept of a multiverse, as well as, Disney Plus, to expand upon some of the characters, bring in new characters faster. Introduce a character in like a show or something like that, expand upon him in the movie. You could drop Easter eggs, man. Wouldn't that be fun? I think they're on to some of Disney Plus. That's only if they play this well. Now, the other side of this, though, there's always a negative. There's always a negative. But the other side of this is that, look, man, will this incentivize them to be lazy? Will this incentivize them to be lazy? I feel like Captain Marvel was a shoehorn character. It really would have made more sense to bring Captain Marvel into an alternative universe instead of bringing her in and just, hey, this character just hasn't been around for 25 years. No, it doesn't make sense, but somebody from the top down told us, said, hey, put her in there, no matter what it takes. Probably should have saved her for the next phase, whatever. But nonetheless, will it encourage them to continue to be lazy? And this is the kicker, this is what I believe, just looking at the nature of Hollywood and some of the writers, using different universes maybe will excuse them to tokenizing more characters. Well, I already know with Spider-Man bringing in that concept, if it's confirmed, remember, we're operating on this idea that it could be confirmed. This podcast is going to be completely useless if the movie comes out and none of this is confirmed. But if we keep operating under the idea that that's going to be the case, maybe they continue to tokenize some characters or bringing in Miles Morales. It's so obvious. And Miles Morales is a tokenized character. He's one of the more successful tokenized characters in recent decades. They brought him in, and all he is, they created him to be a black Spider-Man. He's mixed, but essentially a black Spider-Man, biracial Spider-Man. That's all he is. People can say what they want. They can enjoy these, Spider-Verse movies. It doesn't matter. It's not up for dispute. It's not up for dispute at all. He is a tokenized version of an established white character. That's all he is. You can get mad. You can say you like him. It's a lot of tokenized characters. She-Hulk, a lot of tokenized characters that people like. That doesn't mean that She-Hulk is original, because she's not. She's She-Hulk. She's literally just a female version of Hulk. Now, they did that a lot back in the Gap, where they tokenized, basically made female versions of same characters. In this case, what they did with Miles Morales is just a black version of Spider-Man. His little name is Spider-Man. They call him Spider-Man. But they're probably going to bring him in. But then we're talking about them legitimizing, tokenizing multiple characters. Maybe characters that are already even there. Black version of this, black version of that, Hispanic version of this. And it's never going to be the other way around. You're not going to get white Black Panther or anything like that. You're not going to get that. Trust me. You're not going to get white Luke Cage. You're not going to get that. You're going to get only white, classically white characters that they put through the grinder, being race changed with multiple, and the excuse, hey, it's just a different universe. We can do whatever the hell we want. This is why I despise actually universes. And again, we'll get into, I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts about universes and stuff like that here in a minute. But I actually don't like those concepts if you just look at it at surface level. Nonetheless, could this incentivize them or encourage them to continue to tokenize characters, or more so encourage them to do it even more? We already got like Black Valkyrie and stuff like that. Could they continue to do it more and just fall back on the excuse that it's a different universe. And, you know, because the normies are going to like it. Yeah, yes, girl, work it. You just got a black version of some, I don't know. Yeah, MJ is another one. That's in the current cinematic universe, but nonetheless, will this just be a tokenization fest? That's what I fear. That's what I really, really fear. If we're going to be completely honest, that's what I fear. We'll see. But when we talk about multiverses, different universes, timelines, and stuff like that, I'm not a fan. I think DC did a great job in the 80s with the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they kind of realized that maybe they had gone off the rails just a little bit, and they merged all the universes into one for the most part, give or take. I like that. I like one universe. Now, that doesn't mean you can't tell different stories. You can tell plenty of stories within the main universe. But what it does is it forces the writers to be creative. Can't fall back on, well, this is just a different version of the same character. No. Because what that does is writers are able to just say, screw canon and screw legacy. Screw continuity. Why? It's just a different universe. No. Come on, man. If you don't have the talent to be able to, okay, I got to actually know about this character to write about him. If I'm going to be a new writer of the character, hey, if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be writing the character. Now, I like Marvel's what if scenarios because they're treated like what if scenarios. It's the headliner. What if? What if some massive change, right? But they use that as just like, it's clearly not in the main universe. It's just a what if. Those are fine with me. What I don't like is big universes existing among the other big universes. That I don't like. Or what I prefer is if it's something way down 200 years down the line, but it's the main Earth, which some of their timelines are like that in Marvel's cases, where they're just future timelines of the same Earth, main universe. Those are okay. What I don't like is Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 4, where you just got 50 different versions of the same characters, 50 Thors, 50. I don't like that. I've never liked that. This is why I don't like time travel. Time travel messes things up. It messes up continuity, and I've never liked it in the comics. I've never liked it. I've never liked it. That's all I'm saying. So what's gonna pop off? We don't know. It's hard to say. It's very hard to say, and all we're doing is speculating. But I've never liked it. It encourages lazy writing. And it just really doesn't respect canon. And that's continuity. That's just really important when we talk about comics. I'm sorry, y'all. That's just really important when we talk about comics. Continuity is important. Okay? Nonetheless, we'll see. We'll see. I feel like I've spent enough time talking about it. We'll see. But man, I just hope that this isn't a token fest. Okay. Next thing. Take a swig of this water real quick. Next thing we're going to talk about. Uncanny X-Men, issue 17. I did a video on it. No, let me set the scene. Before I talk about videos and stuff that I've done, let me set the scene. I read it, and I didn't react like a lot of other people reacted. And look, people know that I'm known for it among the comic book community, and talking about and calling out social justice weirdos hijacking comic book culture. Social justice weirdos being social justice weirdos. Weirdos that do stuff like this. And that we already talked about. Those like weirdos that encourage that stuff. Advocate for that stuff. I've talked about that. We know. But what I don't think is a good idea is when people just start flailing and just like they're throwing crap at the wall and calling everything that's uber social justice warrior moment, right? I get it's a problem. I know it's a problem. I acknowledge that it's a problem because I talk about it on my channel all the time. So you can't say I don't. I'm the first one to call it out, but I don't think this is it. For those that don't know, Wolfsbane, Rain Sinclair, was recently killed off. Allegedly. It looks like it. Don't really see the body or anything like that, but and again, we'll talk about some of that stuff as I'm telling the story. But issue 16, if I'm not mistaken, she and Wolfsbane had been acting weird, I would argue, but certainly the last issue before this one, she just was fed up. She was done, and you can imagine the emotional distraught. They had to save her, seeing her friends, seeing guys like Danny Moonstar have this alien tech inside of them. They ended up passing that along with Dark Beast helping them out, passing it along to one of the multiple men. But nonetheless, she was like, I'm done. And I'm not saying that hypothetically or just using that willy-nilly. No. She literally said that. She said she couldn't do it anymore. She said she was done fighting. That's what she says. Literally. They let her. That's what the writer wrote in the script. That's what she said. She said she couldn't do it anymore. She wanted to be normal. She was tired of fighting. And then in issue number 17, she was killed off. And just to kind of fly through this, she was getting hit on by a guy who was with his like 3 friends. I believe it was 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken. The guy's like, come back to the crib. She's like, no, get off me. She ends up reacting, right, and turning into sort of her wolf self. Scratches the guy in the face. Guy's making fun of him, using rhetoric such as, you tried to bag a mutie. Alex, which is the guy's name, Alex tried to bag a mutie. Now you can use your context clues to realize what that could be synonymous for. In the context of this, what they're talking about. And then he's like, Alex is all mad. It's like, this is what you do. You try to trap normal people, acting like you're a normal girl. And she kept saying that I am a normal girl, but she wouldn't fight back. Now that's what happened. And apparently she was killed because they were at her funeral. Now, I don't think she's actually killed. Maybe that's what she wanted them to think, because we didn't really see a body. I don't know. We're going to learn more about it, I'm sure, but it doesn't really make sense because we never saw a body. And maybe because Wolverine, what we see is what Wolverine sees. And Wolverine is seeing a vision by way of Quentin. Quentin is helping him out. Broke her out of their lockup. And, with her, like, sort of powers, she's able to do that. Now, what we could have saw is what they saw, what they thought happened. Maybe she didn't get killed. Maybe she just wanted that appearance so she can get away and just do her thing. That's what I'm believing happened. But we don't know. Right now, all we can go by is that she's dead. So people started reacting to that and saying, well, because obviously what that is, what that represents, what this is an analogy for is, imagine a transgendered person being hit on, not letting the person know that they're transgendered, and then, she got murdered for that, right? So people some people looked at like, oh, this is just toxic, men being toxic, and they're just taking shots. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, no. I personally believe that issue 17 of X-Men is a more positive route to go about maybe talking about social issues. Because one, it wasn't too on the nose. And you have to compare that to things like, let's say, Captain Marvel, issue number 1, the recent issue on the current run. Captain Marvel issue number 1, where it's lazy as crap. They have Nuclear Man come up out of nowhere. And he's just talking down on women. Just pops up out of nowhere, and he's just talking down on women, talking down on her for being a woman. And then he takes this reporter into this portal, and she says, I'm not going to lose her to a 7-foot misogynist. Like, it's the most that's trash. X-Men, and it's easier to write that because you more so represent, like they use mutants, right? And the public's view of mutants in a way to tell these different stories. So, X-Men, they go through these cycles where public loves them, public hates them, public's indifferent on them, they're split on them. You never know, man. But right now, unanimously, they are disliked. And there's even this X gene this vaccination has been implemented to get rid of them, to eradicate them. So they use terms like mutie. And then, all right, let me take a step back. That's what that represents. That's what it represents. Imagine transgendered person having violence inflicted upon them, feeling like that's why they use the term trap and stuff like that. That's what happened. But I think it's completely bogus for people to latch onto this like this is this uber social justice killing of a character just for the sake of making a point. I don't believe that's what it is, because for one, there's more interpretations than this. I saw some people bringing up the fact that she's trained, she's strong, all of this, she survived worse. Literally every death almost of an X-Men, of a Marvel character in general, dies after having survived something much worse. I mean, when you can consider all the people that they've been fighting my apocalypse, yes, come on, man. But remember, Cyclops died by freaking poison. Nightcrawler took a freaking punch to the chest and died by Bastion. Angel committed suicide. So you want to talk about that element of just letting her get beat up on. Angel committed suicide. But in that plane crash, you got Namor, he's died in explosions. Colossus, he kills himself. Taking that pill or whatever, or vaccination or whatever it was. Psylocke got killed by freaking Vargas. Havoc blew up on a ship, and all of these characters got brought back. Or they were like, oh, well, they're not actually dead. And I think that's what this is going to be a case of. But all those characters that I've mentioned have fought some of the biggest dangerous characters throughout Marvel's history. Yet here we are. So you can't use that excuse. A lot of people have died from worse. But her being strong is irrelevant because she wanted this to happen. This is why she was like, oh, that wasn't me. I'm sorry, when she was turning into a wolf out of that initial reaction. And then she turned back. Like, when you look at that, that was not. No. That's not what this was. I don't believe this is just a case of social justice. No. This is actually a better storytelling. Because they did take that element of telling a socially relevant, I guess, story, maybe. But it wasn't too on the nose, and it's up for different interpretations. Obviously, that's one of the main interpretations. But another way you can look at it, and somebody was talking about this in the comments of my video, was like, well, she got killed for not just being herself. And trying to be something that she wasn't. And what she thought what she wasn't was normal. But she looked at that like, well, that's a curse. She was tired of fighting, tired of doing all of this stuff over the years, and was done with it. Public didn't like him. Like, why even fight back? So it makes sense. It's not like this is just random and it doesn't make sense. It makes sense. She's not supposed to get like a fight. She's freaking Wolfsbane, bro. She's not Wolverine. Wolverine, you give him a big build up, epic showdown and death. Right? You give him a 4-page or a 5-issue series, Death of Wolverine. You don't give the death of Wolfsbane. Like, she's not that big of a character, bro. She's a side character. And that's fine. So yes, could they have extended it, maybe build it up, maybe, I guess, went more in depth with her conflicting feelings? Yes, they could have done that. They could have very well done that. But I don't think she's owed that because of how minor the character she is. And I know some people disagree with that, but it is what it is. I don't think this is the case. Definitely when you compare it to other cornball social justice elements, too on the nose, this isn't the case. This isn't what happened with this version of this death of Wolfsbane. I think this is a preferable way to write it because it's up for different interpretations. You can take that element, yes, it represents transgendered, yada, yada, or act of violence on them. You can also say that this person got killed for not being themselves, because if she was herself in her own element, wanted to fight back, knew that she was a mute, she could have kicked all of their ass and embraced who she was. So you could look at it in different ways, man. It's not just one way. And to me, that's the problem, more so in Marvel, in that the writers have been so lazy and too on the nose with some of the stories, where it's only one side being told. And then you don't even get another side. It's not even up for interpretation. At the very least, you could tell one side that, all right, let's say if it's not up for interpretation, but at least tell another. It's been one side, it's just leftism as of late. But this is not new of X-Men. This is something that they've done before. I think they're an easy way to write some of those social approaches. Because if you got to say that that's toxic masculinity, what the hell do you call Wolverine reaction? Where he didn't even show up to the damn funeral with his teammates, which, again, they got in a big argument after the fact about that. He decided he was going to just run up and start killing motherfuckers. That was his reaction. Okay. So when you take that into consideration, okay, what does Wolverine represent? You know, they were trying to talk about how, hey man, look at this. We were just trying to see what she really was. Is the excuse they made, and Wolverine was like, all right, I'm gonna drop these weapons. You take them, you fight back. I'm about to whoop y'all's ass. So what is Wolverine's reaction? We said, screw your law enforcement. I mean, that's what popped it off. He got the police report. Multiple Man was like, man, they're not going to do this, bro. Like, they're not going to arrest those guys. Not going to do anything to them. So what do you call his reaction? Where he breaks somebody out of that they're holding against the team's wishes in Quentin and reacts like a dude, a raged dude. But that's Wolverine. You know what I mean? He is toxic masculinity, and that's awesome. So it makes him Wolverine. But all I'm saying is that I do not believe at all that this is the case, and I think we have to be careful. You know what I mean? Or you guys have to be careful when you try to look at, oh man, look at this social justice crap everywhere. You don't see it. Like, it's out there. This is one of my biggest gripes with leftists in terms of like Donald Trump, for example. You know me, I'm not a Donald Trump fan by any means. I've criticized him. I called him a leftist on occasion. But I criticize leftists in this regards because leftists, for whatever reason, don't take the layup. That's the analogy I like to use. Wide open, fast break. Instead of just taking the layup and taking the 2 points, you pull a fadeaway transition three. Not even to pull a fadeaway and clank it. That's what they're doing, making stuff harder than what it is. Just take the layup. Donald Trump is a loudmouth. His positions are worn on his sleeves. But they choose to criticize him on false crap, right? Stuff that's not even true. It's insane. And this is what folks gotta that want to rid the comic book community of this social justice nonsense, top heavy social justice crap. And I'm right there with you. I'm right there alongside you in that regards, because I want to rid it as well. Take the layup. Don't just go looking for it. Take the layup. It's right there for you. There's a bunch of examples of this. I just personally don't feel like this is one of them. All right. In the next show, of course, we will be going through my pool list. What's on it for the week? Stay tuned to find out.
That's going to do it for today's episode of For Canon's Sake with Eric July. Be sure to keep it locked for the best mix of comics and political commentary you'll ever hear. And I mean ever hear. To get caught up or to contact the show, be sure to visit forcanonsake.com.